How do I find you?
Travel northwest. You will know when you're close.
Then what? The presence was gone, vanished as if it had never been. Northwest would take him toward the Atlantic coast. That made sense. If he was looking for Atlantis, naturally it would be near the ocean, or perhaps under it. He shrugged and got into the shower. At the very least, the drive should be nice, and maybe it would clear his mind. A little over an hour later, the sun was up and Merrick was on the road. The most directly northwest road was a narrow 2-lane country track. His rental SUV had a full tank of gas, so at least he shouldn't end up on the side of the road before he reached wherever he was going. The Emerald Isle lived up to its name. He drove past fields of the greenest grass he'd ever seen, filled with cows munching away. On a sales trip, he'd usually never bothered with a side trek like this. Time was money, after all. Eventually, the farms grew less and less common, and the road rougher. 2 lanes eventually became 1.5. If Merrick met a truck, he didn't know what he'd do. But he didn't meet any trucks. He didn't meet anything at all. He could have been alone in the world. At last, 3 hours of driving brought him to a wide-open turnaround spot on a cliff overlooking the ocean. It was the most beautiful place he'd ever seen. Waves lapped at the rocks below, and a light, salty breeze off the water flowed through his rolled-down window. He would have liked to stay until sunset, but hadn't brought a picnic lunch. He parked and got out of the car. The instant he did, he felt something, like the voice in his dreams, but different. A quick look around revealed a path leading north about 30 feet from the cliff's edge. That was the way he was supposed to go. He set out at a quick walk. Branches hung low over the dirt trail, forcing him to constantly duck. He shivered. It felt 20 degrees cooler under the canopy. The pressure in his mind urged him to hurry, not in words, but just with a feeling. The difficulty of the hike forced him to take his time. He didn't want to end up on his face, after all. At last he reached the end of the trail, a wall of rock easily 10 stories tall. What caught his eye was the cave entrance at the base. That had to be what the presence wanted him to find. If he'd known spelunking was in his future, he would have brought a flashlight. He considered and rejected making a torch. His outdoor skills were non-existent. Merrick couldn't make a fire to save his life unless he had a lighter and kerosene, and even then he was apt to burn himself.
Hurry.
All right. He walked to the cave entrance. It was awfully dark in there. Maybe if he trailed his hand along the wall and moved slowly. Merrick crossed the threshold, and 20 feet ahead of him a crystal flared to life, filling the tunnel with cool, blue light. He grinned. Maybe he really was on the trail of Atlantis. He kept going for a good 10 minutes before he finally glanced back. The tunnel was so dark he might as well have been in another world. He shivered, but kept moving. 20 minutes after entering the tunnel, he reached a large chamber lit by a crystal in the ceiling as large as he was tall. Below it sat a trio of stone tables, each with a metal chest on top. He rubbed his hands. Maybe there was gold inside. First, he opened the left-hand chest. Inside was a display of 6 gray crystals, each the size of his pinky. The right-hand chest held a single red crystal about the size of an egg. If he was going to find any real treasure, it would have to be in the central chest. Holding his breath, Merrick eased the lid open. His hand trembled. Inside were the 3 crystals from his dream, the ones he'd had in his forehead. Below them were 4 smaller ones that matched what he saw in his beard, as well as another pair that were as clear as glass. All his dreams were real. The dark blue central crystal pulsed with energy. He picked it up and placed it in the center of his forehead. There was no pain as it fused with his flesh, only a slight tightening of the skin.
Welcome, brother.
The voice from his dream was stronger than ever in his mind. What would happen when he added the other 2 crystals? Time to find out. Merrick took the second crystal and touched it to his forehead, just to the right of the central shard. No reaction. It felt cold against his skin, a dead piece of stone where the first felt warm and alive.
Your flesh can only harmonize with a single crystal at a time.
How long until...